What's up, my financially intentional people? Super honored to have Walter Johnson join us. And Walter is an entrepreneur, real estate guru, specifically in the area of mobile home parks. Interested to hear his story and get to know what it is about real estate that can really shape your path to financial independence. So, welcome to the show, Walter. How are you?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, thank you for having
Of
me.
course, of
Yeah.
course. I want to talk about like your background. How did you get into real estate? Where is this something that was in your family? Like, how did it all get started?
Yeah, no, so it wasn't my family. I had a real estate mentor when I was in my late teens, and that
Mm,
turned me onto real estate. Now, it wasn't necessarily turning into real estate as far as fix and flips. It was actually the idea of owning a massive amount of like single family homes, because that's what he did
hmm
at the time.
hmm
And that what led me on my path.
So you learned about it in your teens. When did you start really investing in real estate for yourself?
So I learned it about my teens, I would say 19 or 20. I moved
Hmm
to Arizona when I was 21. My cousin got a job out here and I came to celebrate with him. So I picked up a newspaper and found houses were a lot cheaper in Arizona than what they are in Southern California. We're talking about
Okay.
a new house for 100 grand versus 450,000 in Southern
hmm
California. With my knowledge, I actually had bought my first house a year later, and as a single family home, brand new. And I bought single families and apartment buildings. I had majority single family homes.
hmm
And so when I was probably about maybe 25, 26, I think my net worth was right around about $2 million, but it all consisted of single family homes. So that's when I learned, I mean, having 30 or so or 20 some odd single family homes wasn't ideal, because they're all spread all over the place, and it's a lot of work to actually have them. So a light bulb went off, and that's when I really started getting into actual multifamily.
Okay, let's rewind.
Yeah.
Because you said that you had a net worth of 2 million spread out across like different real estate, different single family homes, right? Okay, that's not common. So let's talk about those first couple of deals. How did you find those deals? You were in your 20s. Were you working with a group? Explain a little bit more about that.
No, actually, I wasn't working with the group. I did it by myself. I saved money. It wasn't a girlfriend at the time. She lent me. She had she was going to ASU. She had a get money like a grant from ASU, but I think she
Hmm
got one for $2,000, and she said, "Walter, I believed in you." So she gave me $1,500 to put down on my first house, and so that house I kept for a couple of years. We bought it for 140,000, and I sold it for, I made six figures. I think we sold it like 289 or something like that. So we did well, and
hmm
then I bought a apartment building right after that, and I sold it 4 months later. I think I made like 260 or 270. So you can see
hmm
these huge spreads on these homes. And so what I started doing is actually just buying them, but instead of selling them, I just kept them, and that's how your net worth can increase. However, it's I don't recommend single family homes for investments.
That's amazing to say you got a $1,500 loan from a girlfriend and that turned into a multi-million-dollar portfolio in your 20s. That's incredible. For context, what years were you first buying these homes?
I bought the first investment I bought, I put the money down. You put the money down, you wait for it to get built. I think I put that down in September of 2021. And I
Mhm.
don't think it got built for another 8 months later.
This is all relatively recently that you just started investing.
Yeah, I would say 2001, 2002. Excuse me.
I was thinking it had to be towards that time because of the prices that you were naming, especially. But
Yeah.
that was also we were coming out of this housing market crash and stuff. So it was a kind of different environment to buy in, right?
We had a mid 90s housing downturn, and then we actually
Hmm
had the .com bubble.
Yes, the
So,
dot-com bubble that was in. Okay. All right. So early 2000s.
yes.
And then you were able to take the proceeds from that first house, buy an apartment building. So those two you did not hold, but you took the proceeds for that, and then you started buying and holding single family homes, and then that got you to the net worth of 2 million.
Yes, didn't necessarily take the proceeds. I was saving money as well.
Okay.
Uh, but when you buy a single family home, let's say you put down $100,000 because you buy, let's say you make $700 a month, but
Hmm.
now you're broke, so to speak, right? Because you already
Yeah.
put money, and you don't make that much money on single family homes. So it was constantly of saving money to actually buy the next property, right? And it wasn't producing that much cash flow, and that's when I actually had
Mm.
an epiphany.
Yeah. So then you came to this city that single family homes, buy and hold wasn't it. How did you figure out what you wanted to do next?
So I was a mortgage broker at the time, so it allowed me to actually leave my office and look for a property in the daytime. Yeah, I did have that opportunity to leave an office that some employees can't do. But
Mhm.
you're buying a house and it's 30 minutes away from your office or your home, then you have to look at another home for maintenance. It can get in the way of your job or your family or your weekends.
Mhm.
I had a client of mine named Jerry. He says, "Have you ever looked at mobile home parks?" And I was like, no, I never looked at that because I thought at the time, I was like, I have the pretty stuff. I got the land, I got the apartment buildings, I got the houses, I got a rental house off the lake, I got some condos. I was like, I got the cool stuff. And so I never thought about it until probably about 2000 and I'd say 2012, 2013. I was looking at parks and how income producing um, parks, mobile home parks actually work. And it blew my mind. So I sold my last apartment building in 2016 and bought a park about a year later.
Yeah, mobile homes aren't typically what people would call desirable real estate, right? Stigmatized for when people think like the common people that don't know about real estate. You think about mobile home parks, you're like, I don't know what kind of people live in the mobile homes. Like they're not necessarily really pretty to look at. And so I can understand why it's just like, oh, it's just a thing, it's something that's stigmatized. But what was it about the difference between owning single family homes or apartment buildings and mobile home parks that really tipped it for you to go in that direction?
You go into their garage and that's it. With parks, you actually turn around a park when you put in new homes and you're cleaning up the park. It's actually a direct benefit to them. They actually see it and you become part of that community, let's just say. Another one is that, let's just say I'm working on this 102 space mobile home park. I'm buying it for $2 million. And by the time we put in about 40 homes and increase the rents to what they currently should be in today's market and decrease the expenses, it'll be worth $7 million. So to create that type of $5 million equity is really tough to do in single family homes.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I love that. Like building up community pieces because typically people get into real estate for they want to generate passive income, they want to do all these things, but to get into real estate and be motivated by building communities and improving communities is certainly admirable. Typically, what areas are these mobile home parks that you invest in?
Currently, the one I just mentioned right now, this is actually in Arizona, but we look at several states. I'm located in Arizona. Um, I'm a big component of being in your backyard as well, investing in your backyard as well as other states. So we look at about 13 states as well.
Okay. And so when you're evaluating the mobile home parks, do you take existing mobile home parks and then put in a whole bunch of work to improve the land, the mobile homes themselves? Walk me through that process a little bit.
So we'll look at a mobile home park and
Uh-huh.
we'll look at the conditions and how many vacant spots there are.
Okay.
And we look to fill up vacant spots with new or used homes. We typically don't keep the park owned homes, what they're called. That means the park actually owns those homes. If we
Hmm.
actually do buy a park that actually has park owned homes, we usually look to sell them, rent to own, or get rid of them.
Mm. So what does that mean? So it's people in that park own homes individually?
Yeah, people that own the
Okay.
homes or own the park at
Okay.
times can own the homes in the park. We don't actually want to keep those homes or take ownership. It's because your expenses, you don't make any money with owning a mobile home. Because when you own the home, right, like
Uh-huh.
you're a landlord now.
So you just own the park, meaning that you own the land that the mobile
Right.
homes are on.
Yes.
Okay, that's
Right.
it's different from single family homes. So when you're looking to buy a mobile home park, they're already existing, but you're just buying the land in which the homes are on, and then you're going in there and you're doing improvements on the land themselves, like the
Not necessarily.
infrastructure.
Yeah, not
Hmm.
necessarily improvements. We're just putting in
Okay.
newer used homes, decreasing
Oh, okay.
this and increasing the income based on the market.
If you're not interested in being a landlord, so you guys don't own the homes, you sell those off. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so we'll sell them. They have lenders that actually lend to buyers of mobile homes, or we do what's called a rent to own. They'll pay so many rent payments, and they'll actually own it. And if it's just cheap enough, we'll actually just give them the home. Let's just say $5,000. We don't want the headache of actually managing that home, so we'll just give it to them.
You essentially just own the land.
Yes.
Okay. And then, so with mobile homes, with people who are owning those homes, they have to pay a certain amount of money a month
Yeah,
in
in the area,
to be on the
yes,
land.
but it's either called space rent or lot rent.
Okay. So therefore, you're not a landlord of the mobile homes. You just are collecting the lot rent, and that's where your profit margins come from, where
Yes,
your
I would say we're
profitability comes from.
landowner, something like that.
Okay. Okay. Do you ever develop new parks? Go to an area, buy land, and then develop the
No,
parks?
no. The
Okay.
city,
Okay.
most cities in the U.S. actually, the cities and the counties do not uh, approve mobile home zoning. Is because the cities and counties actually don't make money on mobile home parks due to the taxes. Because it's raw land, let's just say, for the most part, but you don't own the home, and the taxes for mobile homes is not a lot of money. So let's just say if you have a mobile home and it's worth $40,000, and the taxes, let's just say, are 1%. So the county or city is making $400 a year. So they don't particularly care for mobile home parks.
And then mobile homes obviously are called mobile homes for a reason because they're mobile. But the
No,
mobile
they're
homes that
not
you
mobile.
guys,
They're not mobile.
okay, that's what I was gonna ask. So
No.
these are homes that are they're gonna stay there. It's not like for people who are coming in and bringing homes and then leaving. These
No.
homes are, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, they stay there. It takes about $15,000 to move a mobile home or manufactured home into another park, and most people don't do that.
So taking the word mobile out of it, it's really just a manufactured home. Yeah, just a smaller scale that are on these lots. What specifically what's the difference between you can buy a single family like manufactured homes, like what's considered a mobile home?
They don't make mobile homes anymore. So it
Okay.
was mobile. Once they move, usually they actually just stay in the park. So mobile home, let's just say, is just a term that's actually been around for quite some time, but they're called manufactured homes.
Okay. So it's just vernacular. It's just semantics. It's just okay. All right. Just making sure. Like I said, I gotta get caught up to where you at. 'Cause all right, walk me through. First of all, you have a syndication group, and walk us through like how you started that, and then what a typical deal looks.
Yeah, so the reason why I started our syndication is because I actually wanted to help other investors, accredited investors that actually want a true, a real estate vehicle to actually make money from cash from day one. So when you actually look at let's say, single family homes, and I know I'm beating on single family homes, but that's actually what's popular and it's the lowest barrier to entry in real estate. When you actually look at that, and let's say you buy one and you're making your full $500 or $800 a month, you're actually not looking at the expenses. And what you're doing is that you're actually hoping that it increases the value in the upcoming years, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's the definition of speculation. So you're speculating that it's actually going to go up. Now, we can actually take the 2008 recession and saying how many actually of those rental properties went to the bank. Now, if they're great investments, we didn't hear about apartment buildings going to the bank unless they were over leveraged, but we didn't hear about that or mobile home parks. So that's my soapbox on single family homes.
Mm-hmm.
So when I bought my park, I did extremely well on it, and I said I want to do this 10 times. And so what I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
do is create a syndication so I can actually have other investors, accredited investors, actually invest in cash flow properties that really do well.
Can you remind us what an accredited investor is?
Yes, an accredited investor is that the individual that actually makes $200,000 a year or $300,000 a year household and has a net worth of $1 million or more minus their primary residence.
It's either or both.
Either or.
Okay. So to become an accredited investor, do people have to go through like a certain process through a bank, or they just have to prove that they meet
Yeah, they
the
have approval
qualifications for
through,
you?
CPA, or there's actually financials, or there's third-party verification services.
Okay. Okay. So once somebody has established that they are accredited and they're interested in doing a mobile home park deal, what does that process look like?
Yeah, they'll just reach out to me. We actually have a great conversation about what they're looking for, their investment goals are, how much capital that they're looking to contribute, and what are their expectations. I think that's really important, especially in the investment world, property investment world. And if that makes sense, then we move forward. If it doesn't, we'll part ways as friends.
So can you explain to me the difference between a mobile home park syndication and a single, or not single, like a multifamily, like syndication, like these big apartment buildings that people are doing? Typically, what is entry level investment amount, or is there anything different when you look at returns, how people are paid out, like all of those things?
Yeah, so it all varies about how somebody actually creates their fund.
Okay.
It's up to that, I would say, that sponsor saying, this is what I want to create, this is what I want to advertise to the world, or to potential people that want to join my syndication. So ours is 50-50 cash flow, 50-50 equity split. And once we actually sell a mobile home park, we split 50-50 of sales proceeds. And they get 10% preferred rate of return. So it's very attractive for our credit investors to buy or to actually join us in a syndication. The reason why we're actually able to offer those is because mobile home parks actually generate a strong enough cash flow to where we're able to disperse a lot of that profits to our investors.
50-50. When you say 50-50, you mean 50% goes to the capital group and then the 50% goes to the pool of accredited investors?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And then you said a 10%, what is
For
that
return.
called?
So the capital that they invest, they get a
Uh-huh.
10% for return on their money. And that's on
Is that
top of 50%.
is that annually, monthly? Like how does that?
It's they get a quarterly distribution.
Okay. Okay. So somebody comes in, typically like how many accredited investors do you work with per deal?
It all depends. It all
Hmm.
depends on where we're at and what we want to allow. We fill up pretty quick, but it all depends.
Okay. I know you have a current deal that you're working on. Can you walk us through what that structure will look like? I'm coming in, I'm a nurse, I get accredited and I want to work with you guys. What would be the process?
Yeah, so that's actually a minimum of $100,000
Okay.
capital contribution. And that one is, let's just say you're like, hey, I like the numbers. It does really well. I usually focus on base hits. I think that's a great way to build up a real estate portfolio. But this one's actually, a triple or a home run. I would say that.
Hmm.
The owner's due to his health conditions, he's looking he's motivated to sell it. And so what that looks like, the cash flow is great. It's in the six figures after we pay our debt, and we're able to infill lots with newer use homes and add a significant amount of value. So that's when you can buy a park for $2 million and put homes into it, and a few years later is worth $7 million. I think that's a home run.
For me, coming in, I come up with $100,000. First of all, if this is your first investment, $100,000 cash flow can sound like a lot, right? But there are some ways that you can access $100,000 that you may or may not know about, right? If you have a solo for, you can do not a solo 401k. What is it called? Yeah,
Yeah, you
not
can
a
do
solo.
401ks, IRAs. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's self-directed, I'm sorry. So
Yeah.
you can use a self-directed IRA. So if you currently have an IRA that you have money sitting in, you can use some of those funds to participate in deals like this. Are there other ways people come up with the financing for these deals?
Their retirement accounts, several
Hmm.
retirement accounts, of course, cash in their bank, trust funds, so things of that nature. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So I'm coming to you from me just being an investor, besides coming up with the capital, what other things are expected for me to participate in this syndication?
That's pretty much it. We keep it real simple. We actually do the heavy lifting. I wouldn't say
Hmm.
I wouldn't say it's passive income for us because we're actually working. We're boots on the ground. It's passive
Hmm.
investments to our investors. It's because they get a quarterly distribution and they get their cash out of the property. But we're actually working daily on our properties.
And typically within your capital group, how many deals like this are do you guys have going on at the same time?
Usually, what we try to do, since we're dealing with big properties, we don't try to get our hands full, get overextended with actual acquisitions. That's one. But two is that you don't come across a lot of deals that often.
Hmm.
That's not how it works. So currently, we have this one, and we're actually looking at another park here in Phoenix. So with this 102 space and with its other park, we'll probably be full for this year.
So that means like you would acquire a new one, but you have acquired those ones from the past, and then you keep those in your portfolio, but then you just maintain those. How does that
Yeah,
work?
we keep them. Yes, we
Okay.
keep them for several years. So if we buy a park, we're not looking to flip it. It takes a long time to actually get a park filled up and change things.
So typically as an investor, when I come in, I'm looking at like for a span of years, just getting these returns. So the 50-50 split, does that come in when it sells or does it come in just from the profits that you're getting?
It's both. So it's
Okay.
50-50 based on the cash flow of
Okay.
the park. And then you have an equity, but you don't receive the equity till we sell, to the net.
Okay.
And then we have the net proceeds and you receive that. And that's the equity when we sell. So we look to refinance usually about 3 years. And we'll pull some cash out there, not all of it, because we have some loan to value restrictions, but we'll pull some cash out and then keep it for another few years and sell it.
When you guys look at getting loans for mobile home parks, is there a specific type of loan that you have to get that's different from if you were to buy an apartment building syndication?
No, it's. I wouldn't say it's different. There's different
Hmm.
criteria and parameters. Yes, that is true. But no, it's some do some commercial lenders do parks and apartment buildings, multifamily.
So, as an investor in this, like when you buy a single family home, like you have all this underwriting, you have all of these things, paperwork, all of those things. Like, how is that process from investment to sealing the deal?
Well, you do have paperwork and documentation, and
Hmm.
is as you would in a single family home. But the single family home, when you're buying a single family home, whether it's for yourself or whether it's you're buying it for a rental, they're actually looking at you particular as a borrower. When you're
Hmm.
buying, let's say, a park or commercial property, they're actually looking at the property saying, how is this going to perform? So there's different parameters compared to a single family home versus a multifamily. One thing as well is that they actually want to see experience. So it's not when you buy a single family home, they don't care as long as because they're basing it on you. Usually, when you're buying a commercial property, a park, or let's say multifamily, they want to see your resume.
But they want to see individual investors' resume or the portfolio of what the group has done
No,
historically, or
with
okay,
the person that's looking to borrow the money, what
okay.
he has done in the past. So they look what projects have you done, how knowledgeable you
Hmm. Okay. All right. So typically, working with accredited investors, what is like the demographics? Like, what kind of people can typically qualify for these kind of loans and projects? What's usually their background? The people that come in
Oh,
to work with
it's,
you
yeah,
guys. Hmm.
it's advisors. You have doctors, you have CPAs, you have attorneys, surgeons, dentists, business owners. So it's all walks of life, and
Okay.
that's actually I like
Yeah.
that. Not only the residents in mobile home parks are all walks of life, but our investors are as well. So it makes it a very colorful opportunity. And what I mean colorful, it actually you meet people with different personalities and different backgrounds, and actually it's a well-rounded, I would say, investment fund.
So why do you think it's more important now than ever to be financially secure and to get into investments like this?
I would, stress, and I think, your audience would agree, is that when we actually seen during COVID, and then right after COVID as well, to where we had jobs layoffs, you had Amazon laying off, you had Facebook laying off, you had Google laying off. Those are people's jobs, how they feed their families. And I don't think relying on a job is a very wise decision. And here's the reason why I say that is, if you want financial freedom, is that when you actually have a job, you're relying on, which is an employer, right? Or you have two jobs, but that's an employer. You have one or two people actually providing for you financially. When you buy, let's say, a mobile home park, you have 76 employers. And I think buying, multifamily or mobile home parks is actually way less risky than having a job.
Wow, that's a very interesting take. But I like it. Like I like the diversification of having income coming from different places. And so to have this as a possibility or opportunity to be able to build your investment portfolio, I think is really a strong idea.
You're on to something. To highlight what your question is, that when we actually look at the real estate trends and look at the CPI, which is Consumer Price Index, it hasn't gone down. I think it went down 1% in the 70s or so, 70s, early 80s, which means is that that's actually what we're paying for the cost of goods. Now, I don't know, but we've never seen rents or homes actually go down during a recession, yes, but that's not an anomaly. That they happen. But for the most part, if you actually look at the appreciation of real estate, it's usually always going up, usually. And I think have something in 5, 10 years, I think that's actually the way to go. I think rents are actually going to go down that much cheaper. I think they're going to just stay up and continue to go up just based on with inflation and based on historical indexes.
So you said something very interesting earlier about not wanting to be a landlord. And I know, especially during COVID, landlords were getting a lot of the brunt of the financial hits, taking the brunt of a lot of financial hits because there were laws where you having to give people passes on paying rent. You couldn't kick them out. In California, especially in the Bay Area, if you're a landlord and somebody isn't paying rent, like it's very expensive to get someone out. Even in Canada, actually, my stepmom is having this issue having people at her house that she doesn't want there, but they're refusing to leave, and she has little to no recourse. So I think that's actually something that people are just shying away from real estate because of that. But this seems like an option for those people that don't want to deal with the landlording and part of real estate and having to deal with tenants.
A fantastic perspective and fantastic, I guess, something to bring up. You're talking about the eviction memorandum that actually happened during COVID. And so you couldn't kick anyone else out. When if you look at mobile home parks actually had a 96% collection rate. Apartments had a 74% collection rate. The reason being because mobile home parks, they own their home, so they actually have skin in the game. The last thing they want to do is not pay, and actually our homes, they get evicted. Those pause on evictions, a lot of that was press, and that'll get political here, but in a lot of blue states, you have the Californias, the Washingtons, the Oregons, those blue states actually really focused on that. And then actually that it went to the Supreme Court and it lost because you're affecting the business now, making money. So I don't think those memorandums will actually come back like they were during COVID. But I think you actually make a valid point. People can't shy away from those. And I don't invest in, I would say, blue states. I invest in red states.
Not being political at all, but
No,
when
that's
you're looking, yeah, but when you're looking at your owning property, you like are responsible ultimately for that property. And when you can't remove somebody from your property, it's taxing because now the onus is on you. You're paying attorneys for all of this stuff. So a lot of people, especially in the middle class as well, is tied up in real estate, and it takes away, it collapses that middle class because those people are now financially devastated. So I think it's important to know that these are just really good things to consider when you're looking at buying homes, renting out homes, becoming a landlord, all of these things. Like that's what people typically associate with real estate, but there's other options out there.
What happened with that memorandum is that I got here in Arizona, the government said mobile home parks are actually essential workers, so we were able to
Hmm.
stay open. That actually helped us out as well. And two is that when we lost rents because we had an RV section, and remember the road warriors and people were working from home or they wanted to travel, so we were losing people because if we were gaining people, but we were losing incomes because people were just, hey, I'm going to travel, I don't have to be in the office. The government gave me, they actually send you're in business, your rental, you have this rental portfolio, and so they cut me a check for, I filled it out, how many
Hmm.
people left, how much money we actually lost, and they cut me a check for 50 grand. So we're essential. And I think other property owners probably had that, but we were okay.
Because you can prove that
Yeah,
within the
yeah, but it
demographics.
wasn't
Yeah.
nightmares is what people think it was.
Okay. Well, that's interesting to know. So, as far as people coming to work with you, people wanting to work with you, meet you,
Mhm.
possibly get in on this indication that you have open right now, what is the best way for people to get in contact with you?
Sure, sure. They can email me. It's Walter at Sonos Capital, SONOS Capital.com, or they can reach out. They can call my office, area code 480-674-2035. Those are the best
And
ways.
okay. And if there's one money lesson that you want people to take away from this episode, what would it be?
I would say really look hard and saying this is actually how much money I want to have in, let's just say, passive income or real estate, and I would shoot for that. It's possible, it's doable, and I would create, be around people that's actually doing it to help your journey. But I definitely would say make that dream a reality.
I love that. Change your circle of influence. Always aim to be the dumbest person in the room. That's like my motto. So thank you, Walter. I learned a lot on this episode. And thank you for being patient with me and breaking things down because this is a new space for me. So I really appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thank you for having me on once again.